the other interesting thing is Trump has always had this winning narrative on trade and the economy, which the pandemic has largely now taken away. Is there a chance, though, that we could perhaps see a spike in third quarter GDP numbers out of the United States, which could turn that narrative around? And if so, how is the Biden campaign going to respond to that? While we might see an improving economic environment in the United States, clearly the overall concern about the virus is still going to be there. So do you expect this to form part of the narrative in the coming months?
You know, it's interesting because some have really, pontificated that there may be this shift that allows Trump to sort of recover some of the economic losses that he's seen. And what we've actually seen over the last few months is that, surprisingly, people are still buying homes, right? And stocks are still soaring, and people are not necessarily losing as much in their retirement funds. But I think what's really going to happen, despite that economic narrative being positive to a certain extent, based on, again, the people who are working during this time or the people who have been able to find some level of recovery, I still think that there's going to be a push for some explainability around these losses, whether it's loss of life or the loss of some sense of security when it comes to not having a vaccination, whether it comes to the lack of, some sense of certainty when it comes to kids going back to school. There are so many unknowns that the RNC is going to have to tackle in the next few days. And I'm not quite clear at this point if this administration is going to be capable of sort of reversing the narrative. It's going to be a Herculean effort, and primarily because the president seems to focus on things that are more divisive. So if the economy is great, we'll probably hear more about mail-in voting. If there are success stories, there will probably be something very dark that will come out of this particular administration and campaign. So I think there may be a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of our economic recovery, but it's not going to show up in these next few weeks.
So you're saying that COVID will be potentially an election-deciding issue?
Oh, of course. I think that despite the fact that we're seeing some narrowing of the numbers of people who are unemployed, the bottom line is there's still 28 million people that are pretty much dependent upon unemployment benefits. Added to that, we've seen Congress have to now deal with the U.S. Postal Service crisis when it comes to ensuring that ballots will be received and processed in time around the next election, around this forthcoming election. So I think, if it's not necessarily the virus itself, it's going to be the related impact of the virus and the extent to which there's going to just be still confusion coming forth from this administration around how it's going to reverse the course towards our recovery. There's a lot of uncertainty in the United States, despite what you saw last week with the DNC and what we're probably going to see with the RNC. I believe that there are a lot of voters that are still in the middle trying to figure out how they personally will get out of this. And I think unless a candidate speaks directly to that, both parties run the risk of losing their base or a portion of their base to that uncertainty.